We're joined by a brilliant panel bringing perspectives from filmmaking, activism, science and local action. We've got Pip, who's the director of what we've just seen. We've got Joe, who is the star of what we've just seen. And we've also got Jamie, who is a local representative of Service Against Sewage. Am I saying that? Yeah. Brilliant. We'll begin with a short conversation and then open up to your questions. So I hope you can have along, thinking of some tricky little questions for us all as we go through. So if I start with you, Pip, what do you most hope people take away from the film tonight?
Well, first of all, thank you very, very much for coming out this evening and coming to see the film. I think when we set out to do this, it was a kind of a happy accident. Joe's a kind of accidental activist. This was slightly an accidental film in the way that it came about. But when we started to look into it, we thought there's a lot of different ways that we could go. We could go down quite an aggressive campaigning route. We could, sort of have Joe camping out South West Water and, sort of demanding things and trying to, get in and get stuff and see stuff happen. And we kind of, the more and more we thought about it, we thought, what's really at the heart of this film is just somebody amazing, just putting their head above the parapet and deciding, I've had enough and I want to do something. And we really felt that what Joe represented was the every person. We can all see something of the possibility through Joe. And so we wanted to make a film that was kind of more optimistic and hopeful and showing the power of local activism and how it can make a difference. And then when it comes together, so that the kind of the crescendo towards the end of the film of March for Clean Water was really important. And that's been actually has served us really well in the last sort of month or so as we've been out on the road, because dirty business does a very good job of making you very angry, and I think our film comes along and shows the other side of the story, that actually, yes, there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of, sort of, gosh, this is really bad, but hopefully our film, people will take away from it is that there is some hope, and hopefully it's amplifying what you're all doing, what lots of people around the country are doing, and hopefully encouraging people to do more.
Yeah, when I see a movie that's hard-hitting, I think we all have personal climate anxiety, whichever way you look at it, and I think sometimes when you watch a movie or a documentary that just makes more climate anxiety, that doesn't help. I find with myself personally anyway, and something that actually connects into a project that gives me hope, gives me perspective, enables me and empowers me, definitely excites me and connects into what I'm trying to do myself, which is what this does. So definitely thank you for that. And Joe, what do you hope people feel or think after seeing your story?
It's partly, I suppose, what I don't want them to think. I don't want them to think that Exmouth is the shit capital of the world, because it very, very definitely is not. Exmouth is just one example of all places around the entire coastline of the nation, every river and lake. Some are much worse than Exmouth, some are not quite so bad, but we're just very typical. So I don't want people to think that. I want them to understand that this is something that's nationwide. It's huge. This isn't just about little old me not going swimming in Exmouth. It is so much bigger than that. I want them to think that, I want people to see that they can do something to help to make a difference, that it doesn't take something huge to do that. Lots of little things can collectively, cumulatively add up and make a difference. And I think the March for Clean Water in the film shows that. That's a lot of individuals, small community groups, some bigger groups and so on, all coming together under the umbrella, all organised by River Action, so coming together under their umbrella. And that march directly led to River Action sitting around the table in government, getting involved with cross-party groups and so on, and making the case for clean water. So don't ever think that even just some little action won't work. Think that it will. Think that it might be tiny. I think it's really hard. Right now in the world, there is so much shit going on in every arena that you look at, not just the water. The world is if you listen to the news, it seems like a terrible place to be, and it can make us feel really powerless to help. What on earth can we do in the face of all that? you can do things. You know, they don't have to be very big, and everybody's kind of individual resources are different, and it's whatever works for you. The emotional energy you've got, the time you've got. Sometimes it's the money you've got. It can all make a difference. So, you know, write to your MP, campaign to your council, get together with a group of people, find a group in your local community that care about the same things, and if the film makes you think in that way, then I think we will have really achieved something powerful.
And I think you really hit the nail on the head there with, you know, it feels like how many emergencies are going on around the world right now, and that can feel really overwhelming then to sort of close in. And I think what people are doing now is connecting to their community a lot more, whether that's a hobby, whether that's a project, and I think that's the best sort of way for your mental health and the way of coping is, what can I do now where I live? And Swansea is an amazing place, and it's quite a bohemian city, and there's projects all over Swansea that I worked in and been a part of, and it doesn't matter if you like gardening, the sea, mountains, Wales has it all, and I think you as an individual can do a lot as well. So Jake, that brings me beautifully on to you. What do you hope people understand about local water issues in Swansea?
So I want to talk a little bit first about how the film made me feel and the connection with the film. So I was writing down notes, so this was the first time that I saw the film alongside both of you, and I thought there was some amazingly powerful messages in it. The first thing I wrote down was how the connection to the scene was through your connection with your family and with your sister, and then that extended to your community as well. I thought that was really beautiful. I love the shots that you put in here, the slow shots of the fishermen, the kayakers, the swimmers. You managed to explain why it was important without using any words, and like those slow, beautiful shots, they just made me feel very at ease after being angry with the message that Joe was trying to get across. Yeah, so it was a brilliant piece of filmmaking, and I'm really lucky to be a part of this. I think as well that serendipity was a huge part of it. You started on this journey not knowing where it would end, and then you met people, and it just kept on working out. And I think that's one of the biggest messages of hope. It's very easy to say, I can't do this, it's not going to work. But unless you try, you don't know what's around the corner and what's coming next. So serendipity was a big word that I had on my list. And the humour. I thought the humour was hugely important, and it was a fun film, and that's why I'm here with Surfers Against Sewage. We can be a bit cheeky, we can talk about shit. And the humour is really important on these campaigns. So Joe, how long have you started this now? How many years are you in?
I stopped paying my water bill in 2023, and I took my case to the Small Claims Court in January 24, so it's over 2 years now. Feels like a lifetime.
And I imagine humour's kept you going in that, because it is a slog. Surfers Against Sewage has been going for 36 years now. It is a slog, and we need our community, we need our connections, and we need humour. So what's the original question? I've got my touch.
What do you hope people understand about local water issues?
So the data, I'm a geek, I love the data. So in Wales last year, 2025, we had over 100,000 spills. So that's the number of spills, which is obviously ridiculous. When my toddler spills, it's a glass of water, it's about that big. The hours of these spills was 800,000. So on average, every spill is 8 hours. I wouldn't class that as spill, I would class that as dumping. In that year as well, we had 202 reported sicknesses. So SES has this amazing app, the Safer Seas and River Service app. You can check if a spill has happened in your area, which is great if you're a user, if you're a sea swimmer. But there's also the citizen science side of it. So if you see a spill happening, you can tag where it's happening and upload that evidence, so that when people campaign, either SES or people on behalf of you campaign, they have evidence. If you get sick and you have a doctor's note, you can also upload that to the app. It's all about citizen science and our community.
So go a bit back to the movie now, and Pip, I'll come back to you. So, what did making this film reveal that many people still don't see?
Oh gosh.
You told me to challenge you, so I understand that.
Again, it's, that's a good. I've not been asked that question. So, I think. Well, no, I just think that. I think. Well, as Joe was saying, one of the things that was very important to us. I live in Exmouth as well, where Joe lives, and I was very nervous when we started to make this film. That if we did get it wrong, and it felt like we were doing something that was very negative to Exmouth, everyone knows where I live, and so we did work very hard to make Exmouth look really beautiful and show how many people do use the water and are connected to the water, and I think that was important not just for Exmouth but for everywhere. That's what that's about. We obviously did that on the River Thames, and we did it on various other places as well within the film as we went as kind of up the tributaries, as we called it. So I think for me as a filmmaker, I've made films about all sorts of different things over many years, and I've become a kind of a pseudo expert in that thing whilst the few years that I'm making that film. And I think for me, I was just really shocked because I was like Joe, quite ignorant about what was going on. I knew it was background noise, but as I started to get into it, like you've just said about the amount of hours, and then you get into the pumps that aren't gravity fed, but they are actually proper mechanised pumps that are pumping out huge volumes of untreated sewage in certain places at times. You just think, wow, this is really huge. And then the whole backdrop of the thing that sits over all of it is a decision that the people that are running these companies, it's predicated on profit, for something that is essential to us as human beings. And there's a whole political argument around that for many things that actually feel like they're essential to us. They shouldn't be about making profit. So I think and the other thing that's really important, you've already mentioned, and I know you've done huge amounts of stuff yourself with campaigning and activity, is that as we tour the film, it's all about trying to amplify the local stories. It's trying to shine a light on and celebrate people who are doing something, gathering together, connecting. And we've had some really beautiful moments of where people have been gathered in a room watching a film, and then sort of someone talks about something, and then someone says, "Oh, that's me." And then they're, "Oh, it's you." And then people start to connect with one another and realise that they sort of haven't found one another within a certain area where they're all sort of doing stuff, and that's been really lovely.
Something to be in a movie that I haven't seen very many of our elements with the artist side of things, all the different artists connected to it. And we were sort of talking during the movie about how when you go on holidays, when I go on holidays, I go to the sea, I go to the seaside, I go to nature, and we don't really realise that we're always pulled to that calming feel, to what it does to us. So to see all the artists create, the poets, etc. throughout, I found that really moving and connecting to me. And I think for yourself as well, you found, Jake, it relaxed you during the movie. You got that connection. It might be a different location, I might never have been there, but I understand the connection between the artist and the trainer put out there. And that gentleman with the canvases in the water.
Yeah, I think that again, the beauty of documentary filmmaking is it's an evolutionary process. Meeting Ian Cook, he's the tall, very posh gentleman that leans over Joe at the South West Water Tower. We didn't know him. He sort of just. I was filming a little bit, and he just arrived. But then he told us a bit more about who he was, and we went to see him, didn't we? Met him at his house, met his lovely wife Elizabeth. And then there's this whole Ted Hughes connection that he was literally best friends with Ted Hughes. Well, okay, this is interesting. And then when Jim came on board the project, Jim Murray, the actor, and then he was like, "Oh well, I've been doing this project. It's been inspired by a Ted Hughes poem." Everything just starts to sort of weave together, and I think hopefully that's something. And then with Anne Marie and Joe with the salmon on her head in the water, and Joe knew nothing about that. I literally gave her a place to come on the middle of Exmoor at a certain time. So she genuinely had no idea what was going on. And so when you see her going, She's really like, what is going on here? You know? So, but that was really important to bring that aspect into the film, so because it speaks so much more deeply about the issue.
And Joe, I'll bring you to then. So did living through it feel different from seeing it on screen?
Living through the making of the film, yeah, it kind of felt a bit unreal, really. I mean, I did get asked a similar question the other day, and it really made me think about that. And I don't know, I just sort of went along with it, really. I just did whatever they told me, which is kind of out of character, actually. But no, it was all very, very easygoing. I mean, the film crew, which was essentially you and 2 others, really, 3 others, most of the time, they're just all lovely, and it was really easy. So I kind of never felt like I was being filmed, really, in a way. It was very natural. Once it came on screen, that was a whole different ballgame. So I didn't see it until the premiere. I'd not had a preview at all. I didn't want one. And I told you the story earlier, can I tell it? Yeah. So at the end of the film, the first question at the Q&A was to me, what did I think of seeing myself on the film? And all I could say, because it was literally all I had been thinking throughout the entire film, was, I look so fucking old. Seeing your face blown up, filling a huge screen. It's like, you know, if you hear your voice recorded and you think, bloody hell, is that what I sound like? Well, it's like that, but on steroids. It's your whole face. And I couldn't see it as a film at all. So people were saying to me, premiere, oh, it's a beautiful film, and the way, the narrative and the way it flows, and I was thinking, I don't know what you were talking about, because all I had seen was my face. So I've now seen it about 15 times. I don't look at my face anymore. Well, actually, I do a bit.
I have to say, it was very scary. People come to me, what do you mean Joe's not seen it? And then right at the very end, just before the Q&A, it was in the big hall at Exeter Phoenix. There was a lot of people there, and so Giles was there, CEO of Serves Against Sewage, and other people, and so we were all gathered, and Joe wasn't there. But fortunately, I'd seen her nip out the door and say to someone, "Just pop into the toilet." But you could see there was this kind of nervous sort of laughter, like, "Where's Joe?"
I think it was your nervous laughter, thinking I might have done a run because I hated it.
And you can see the honesty in the filming as well. I think it's better that it's unscripted. It's better that you weren't told what was going to happen, and the journey that you were going through from start to finish, I think we as an audience come with you. And I think that's how we would have lived it in a lot of ways as well. That's definitely when I see projects, when I talk to them, when I've done projects myself. I've run a project called Rhonda, Experience the Environment in Rhonda. Started with just me and me, and now it's 1,800 members strong, and that is a very similar journey, not lovely screens and all the rest of it, and all the attention, but the impact on what it makes. And when it gets to a certain point, it just sort of then carries itself, and then you can step away slightly. And I think this definitely exhibits that on, as you say, the social media post. I remember the first thing we did was it's quite good.
I just put a little post in a Facebook group locally that David Parsley happened to read, because he's in that group. I'd never heard of him, I didn't know him, and then it turns out he lives in Exmouth. And what really made it blow up was that the interview that I did with him was on the beach in Exmouth, and I went for a swim as well. And he'd brought a photographer who I thought was just there to take some snaps to put in the paper with the article. And she was making video, and at that point I never did social media. I mean, apart from a little bit on Facebook, that was literally it. Instagram, no idea. So she was making this little video, and I in my naivety, was thinking, that's interesting, I wonder what she's going to do with that. What she did with that was put it all over social media, and it was that went viral. And it was that, actually, that then led to everything else.
Wow. Jacob, I'm going to back in.
Now I do Instagram, by the way.
What we follow?
Joe Bateman 99.
There we go. Here's the plug. So Jay, I just want to bring it a little bit back to look at what's going on your end. So, what are local people in this area most concerned about right now? Do you have a certain area that's maybe a hot topic at the moment, and where you're trying to focus your energies on action and awareness?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Sorry, I forgot to say earlier, that stats was just Wales, those spills and that hours. So there's a couple of things that SAS are doing locally. I have to admit I've been quite quiet. I've just retrained to be a teacher and had a baby. But we have got beach clean coming up on the 26th of the 4th down Llangennith. Always a lovely clean. We work with the local farmer, so he has all the big toys. We get out onto the beach and we get tons and tons of rubbish. This is one of the best ways that you can have a positive impact, and so that's going to be 9 in the morning till 12 noon on the 26th. Online petitions, I know these work, and I know the contact button to your MP works, because when we've worked with MPs, they tell us that it works, which is amazing. Another big thing coming up in Wales soon is going to be your voting for the Senedd elections. So May 7th, we held a hustings last week at Langland. I can't give my praise to any particular candidates, but there's definitely clear winners, I would say, for the environment and for water quality. So there's definitely clear users, but as a teacher and as a charity organisation, I am apolitical. But please use your vote, make sure it counts. I always say if you don't vote, you can't moan about it. Okay, so make sure you vote, and then if they get it wrong, at least we can have a good old wine down the pub.
Do you know the big shiny toys the farmer brings to the beach fields? I think that's the best thing, because they'll take all the heavy stuff off you. You do that little bit at the beginning, and then they take it all away, and the impact's greater. And we were sort of talking about Swansea University with the sustainability department. They do 2 beach cleans, one's on Prominent Boroughs of Bay campus and the other one's on Singleton campus. They do them every single month. Started with 2 beach cleaners just around COVID time in 2021. And the last time they did it, they had 40 people at each beach clean, so 80. And they took, I think, 3 ton off the beach. And that was in the last month in Swansea. So it's already happening all around us. It's about connecting ourselves. And we're always looking to collaborate. I used to work with them and run these projects. We had 168 partners. Or I got them collaborators. And yeah, so no matter where you are, there's places to connect and projects to connect to.
Are you doing paddle out down here?
We have done it in the past, and we've done it around the corner at Caswell. So obviously Caswell has Surfability, who are literally world leading in adaptive surfing. It's incredibly important that their users with compromised immune systems are kept out of sewage. Like particularly, everyone should be and should have that right, but particularly people who are disadvantaged or haven't got the same privileges as us, we need to keep them safe. And so we have held one in the past there. The one this year is going to be Bridgend, and it's May 16th.
Thank you very much. So this will be a question to all 3 of you now. So who needs to act fastest now? Government, industry, or public?
I mean, my answer to that is that the hard reality is that politically, no. The pressure has to maintain. We have to be talking to MPs about the water bill that's going through. At the moment, it's absolutely not fit for purpose. The new water bill that's being put through as a white paper at the moment, they've even taken out of that any sort of reference towards public ownership, which just seems ridiculous. So we've got to keep the pressure up about that. But I think the reality with everything that's going on in the world and the way they're all sort of chomping on one another anyway over Peter Mandelson, I'm not that sure. Equally, industry, you know, even when things have happened. So at the moment we've had a situation with South West Water where, you know, they come under heavy sort of legislation around bonuses and stuff. So what they've got around with that is Pennon Group, who owns them, are doing sort of bonuses for people in an entirely different way with a different type of language, but it's exactly the same thing. So they'll just get around everything that they want to get around, essentially. And if you look at what's happening with Thames Water at the moment, it's just ridiculous. So really, even though it feels like at times the power doesn't lie with us, I really do think it does. I really do think it does, because I think the more and more people who locally get involved and do something and then connect up through organisations like Service Against Sewage, River Action and many others, or getting involved with Fergus Sharkey stuff, or whoever else is out there, you know, Chris Packham, that stuff does make a difference. And I think that's the groundswell that's just got to happen. And Joe often talks about this. History tells us this. You know, the women's vote. You know, abolition of slavery. You know, the poll tax. You know, blah blah blah. It's that groundswell, and I think we've got to look in the mirror and believe in ourselves a little bit, and say we can do this. We can make a difference.
Yeah, I mean, I think all three of those, government, industry and the public, I completely agree with Pip. It's up to us to keep that pressure on, because if we don't shout, the government won't do anything. So we do have to keep shouting. But the government does need to act, and that's on them, you know. Industry needs to act, but that's also on the government to enforce that. You know, they're kind of the top of the chain, but they won't do anything unless we push from the bottom. So I think that's really, really important. Pip mentioned water coming into public ownership, and there's a lot of talk about that with people who are campaigning for clean water, because nobody thinks that having a privatised system where the prime goal is to make money for the shareholders is the way to go with something that's so essential to life as water. And I'm of that ilk, like most people. I believe very, very strongly it needs to come back into public ownership. However, the problem with it, not with public ownership as such, it gets bandied around a lot that that's going to be the answer to all the problems that we've got with our water system. Well, it's not. Nothing will change when it comes into public ownership. It needs so much more change to happen on other levels. So the government needs, most of the laws that we need actually to enforce clean water are in place, and they're just not being enforced. The Environment Agency needs to be better funded. It had millions of pounds defunded from it in recent years, so it hasn't got the money at the moment to do the number of inspections that they need to do. So that needs to change. If you've seen Dirty Business, you'll know that the Environment Agency are in bed with the water companies. That needs to change. The government have said that water companies that commit criminal acts, which they do all the time, incidentally, many times a year, will be in line for prison sentences. Well, that hasn't happened yet, and that's been around now for a little while. Not that long, but plenty long enough to get them for criminal activities. It's not happening. So all three, really, we need to push from the bottom, and then maybe we'll get what we want from the top. We will in the long run, but it will take a long time.
Maybe just to make it a Swansea-centric answer for us, because you're...
Yeah, so obviously in Wales we have NRW, so it's slightly different. I know what I would like to happen. I would like the businesses to be making a difference, because they've had 36 years to make this difference. As we see, that's not happened. I really have a problem with the word business as well, unless we're using it for the term for a collection of ferrets. Business isn't the right terminology. Let's be honest about it, they're monopolies. As we all know from playing Monopoly as kids, the only thing that the biggest person in Monopoly fears is the community chest card. Okay? We have to be that community chest card to come together, make the rules, i.e. go to the government because they're making the rules for the monopoly. So it's people power to government to then to business. But my preference would be the business just say, oh yeah, we'll do it.
I love that. That's great. We're going to open up to Q&A in a second, so we're going to get ready. The last question, we'll make it quite a short answer if possible, just so we get on time. And so, after all of this, we're now seeing hope. And that can be locally, nationally, where you start to see hope.
I'll give you one quick thing. So we did a screening in Totnes, down in Devon, so the River Dart. No, it wasn't there, was it? It was in the one that was in Plymouth, which Anne-Marie came to. And she told us about an amazing project on the River which is down near Bigbury-on-Sea in South Devon, if you know that area. And there's a group of people down there who've been experimenting with mycelium to naturally filter water. And they're having incredible results. Mycelium taking toxins and all sorts of pollutants out of waterways, which is just incredible. And they're really, really sort of top people, and they're looking at how that can be scaled. And when I heard it, and I've now talked to them, we're going to go and see them, they're coming to one of the screenings that we're doing, I just thought, this is just so brilliant. And their thing is, nature has the answer. You know, nature has the answer, and I just found that really hopeful.
Joe?
Remind me of the question.
Oh, sorry. Something that gives you hope.
Community.
Yeah.
So when I first moved to Devon, I didn't really know anybody there. I was, prior to all of this happening, a quiet loner type of person. That's changed quite a lot. But I was very happy being like that, you know, and I moved to Exmouth. I loved Exmouth, but I kind of felt that I wasn't really meeting people who were like me. And it was only when I got involved in the water that I found my tribe. And it wasn't something I knew, well, I wasn't looking for it. It wasn't something I felt aware that I needed, but having found it, becoming part of a community of people in Exmouth, which has only happened because of our connection through the water. There are people who care about things like me, think a bit like me, will take action like me. And that has been a really, really heartwarming thing. So the power of community to make you feel that you belong, to make you feel that you can make a difference, that's it.
Great. Jay, gives you hope.
Thank you. So there was a recent poll that said 89% of people, their number one issue they want is climate change tackled, or environmental problems. Of these 89% of people, they all think they're in the minority. Like, what we are missing is that community connection. Like, we've got all these wonderful projects going on, but a lot of them tend to happen in the silos. We need to make sure that we're coming together. I'm slightly reminded with something Gareth was saying earlier when we were downstairs in the cafe. There's an African proverb that I love. It's faster on your own, further together. Okay? That is my message for hope, I think.
Yeah, for me, my life's all about collaboration, sharing resources, sharing ideas, and that sort of brings much bigger things together than if you running a science. Thank you for that. So let's bring in the room. Let's bring everybody here. So if you've got a question, please put your hand up. We've got some amazing. This is Josh. It's fantastic. You've got a graft project outside. If you want to watch it, when is the session with graft every week?
So it's actually full, but you can go on the waiting list. Yeah, we have amazing volunteers every week, but the garden is open every day to walk through. Community volunteers manage the space and learn about environmental stuff. It's amazing. Yeah, I took Pip around earlier actually. Yeah, it's an amazing way to end a week actually. Yeah, don't just sit on my desk.
I know, I didn't say at the beginning, so I was a little bit nervous. My name's Gareth, and I run a project called GreenWales. And it's all about finding projects, companies, and micro companies embedding the well-being of generations out of Wales. So I'm always on tour, I'm always I focus on 0 to 5 people employed businesses. And did you know that in Wales, I think it's 85% of our economy is a 0 to 5 business, and 70% of our economy is a zero employer. So when I say collaborate, it's because that's how Wales will succeed in the end, despite us all working together. And what I see across Wales is inspiring, and it gives me energy and sort of things. So if you want to see all the stories that I'm finding, I go on tour every week. I release episodes on GreenWales on YouTube. It's a chance to go and find it. So please, give me a hand so we can ask the questions. These wonderful people. Has anybody got a question? Yes.
Cool. Yeah.
We go.
Paul Jones, question for Jake. Thanks very much for the efforts against sewage do. I'd like to ask a question about how you impact or get into and influence the water companies. Do you at all work with Ofwat, or do you try to influence Ofwat on your work?
So I'm very fortunate to be a volunteer for this amazing company, Surfers Against Sewage. It's one of the reasons I love it is it attracts so many different people. I would love to say that I am an expert on political stuff, or I am an expert on the water testing that they do. I have to admit, I tend to do the stuff that gives me energy, gives me hope, and that's the community engagement stuff. So organising sort of mini festivals here in Langland, organising paddle out protests, organising the beach cleans, those things that brings community together, that's my specialist. I'm afraid, Paul, I can't answer your question or what.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the good work.
Yeah, I mean, we've worked very closely with Surfers Against Sewage on the film. We've got to know the team there, you know, Giles and all of his team, and they do amazing work. I mean, equally to, it was River Action and Surfers Against Sewage that put on March for Clean Water, and they were all engaged and are always engaged at very high levels with the political process and various organisations. So there are some very, very good people out there that are engaged at those levels, but it's tough. You know, it's really tough because they're often just banging against a brick wall. So, but they are doing it.
Thank you. Another question. Ooh, there's two. There's one over there, one there. Right.
I was just wondering, obviously, Pip, you touched on it, talking about the research into mycelium, but when we're talking about hope, like, where are we turning? Because I don't know who is doing the research into what the alternatives are. Like, sewage isn't going anywhere. So what else can we do with it? Does anyone know?
So, sorry, I didn't fully hear it, but are you asking how we deal with the sewage problem? Yeah, okay. It needs a massive investment in our infrastructure. It does not need to be every time it rains, they dump shit in the sea. That just shouldn't be happening. It needs massively upgraded infrastructure. It needs a massive investment of money. And that has been the problem since it's privatised, is all the money, any profit has just been drained. And not only, it's not even been drained to somewhere else in this nation where you might actually see some effect of it. Most of it goes overseas, huge financial conglomerates and so on. So they don't give a damn what's going on over here. They don't care about the quality of our water. They just want their shares. But there are solutions to these problems. So upgraded sewage treatment works, more sewage treatment works to cope with new houses that are being built everywhere. More storage tanks for when there is a problem with overload because of rain and so on. With sufficient storage capacity, they wouldn't need to be dumped in the sea. That's the bottom line. So it's a real no-brainer, actually. It's not difficult in terms of what can we do, here is the answer. What's difficult is getting the money put in and getting the water companies to do the right thing. And then at the higher level, getting the government to do the right thing. It's like Jim Murray says in the film, do your job, Keir.
Can I hop in on this as well? So my background's sustainable construction as well, so I'm passionate about nerdy things like SUDS, so sustainable urban drainage systems, swales, how we can sort of slow down, because obviously the climate, I assume we all know that the climate crisis is getting worse and we're having heavier and more frequent downpours and then drier periods during the summer. So by slowing down the water getting into a combined sewage system, so this could be rain butts at home, this could be swales, this could be speaking to your local council, how they deal with water run from roads. All these things will reduce the pressure on those old Victorian systems and ease that pressure.
I love that because I was going to say slowing down, volunteering in, Bateman, being partnered with Women's Nation Wales, sort of raising the flood levels up in the beacons, which then when there is extreme rain, it doesn't come down as quickly and then doesn't overwhelm the systems that we have. So this project's all over. And with a project like Stumble Up for Trees, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, with Gareth Banks. That's a fantastic project where they're planting native trees in the right areas. And again, it does take time. It's not going to happen like this, but they're planting tens of thousands of trees every year where you can just get involved and you are going to have an impact. And you're going to clean the water, add in biodiversity, having a carbon sink at the same time. And you can just do it, I know there's a community that we can see in Monmouth, and they've decided to act themselves. And they've seen the water flooding, frequent flooding drop by, I think it's 30% in 5 years, because they've just been planting always, and they're doing it constantly, they are trying to protect where they live. So instead of looking away, you can just look locally, no matter what your passion is, whether that's food, whether that's agriculture, whether that's water, whatever it is, you can find something that you can make an impact on.
Yeah, making sure you have porous driveways, so no resin driveways, get rid of those. Nature-based solutions, so hemp can clean up brownfield sites, so old industrial sites. If you grow hemp on the sites, similar to mycelium, you can suck out those toxins. Hemp can be used in limecretes in natural installations. Again, carbon is locked in that installation. Straw bales are fantastic insulation. These are all things that we can look at as individuals, but also as a community, as a government.
I've got a terraced house, so I put a micro meadow in my back garden, and I've got a yellow rattle, which is a meadow making plant. I've sunk a few kitchen bowls in there, and there's all these little things you're creating little stepping stones. So no matter what you do, you can actually do something. There was a question over here. I saw a little. I think Josh, please.
Hello, I'm Zoe. I just wanted to say thanks. It was a really beautiful film. It was really emotional, but it was also really powerful. My question is for Joe. You said that you were quite quiet before this, and you lived quite a solitary life almost. There must be moments where you just regret starting this and just think, what the fuck have I done? I can honestly say I've never regretted it, but yeah, you're right, in a sense. I mean, I do keep saying, I've said it so many times, one of these days I will be allowed to crawl back under my rock. Well, I mean, I have no idea when that might be. You know, this thing kind of happened to me in a way. I didn't set out for it to become this huge thing, and it's just organically grown and taken over my life and turned my life completely upside down. But my legal case is still ongoing, and it's in the High Court because South West Water argued for it to be kept in the High Court, and unfortunately the judge agreed. And you know, they did that. I'm absolutely guaranteed they did that to try and scare me off, make me go away. And at any point in the last couple of years, I could have decided I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to walk away. That isn't me. I've taken this on. I'm very bloody minded and I'm very persistent, and I am in this now to the end, whatever the end looks like. And when we get there, I will be crawling back under my rock. But I will still be part of that lovely community in Exmouth. I know I'll never move from Exmouth now, and I'm somebody that's moved around a lot over the years, loads and loads. I was trying to remember how many houses it was. It's about 17, yeah, something like that. It might even be a bit more. I don't know, I included all. Anyway, so I've moved around a lot. I'm now in Exmouth. I've told my kids I'm going to die in my house. I'm not going anywhere else. They weren't very happy to hear about that, but anyway, you know, I love it there. And so I can't regret anything, really. I think regret you shouldn't ever regret anything, really. If there's anything you think, kind of, you wish you hadn't done it or wish it hadn't turned out like that, then you learn from it and you move on and you might do it differently next time. I sincerely hope there isn't a next time with this, but there you go.
I'd just like to say though, it has been tough for Joe. And it's relentless, you know, a lot of this stuff. And Joe often is the person that gets called up when something else blows up in the news, and is asked, you know, she's going to be on telly again in a few days. And it's, you know, so a lot of respect to Joe. And we talked about this on the journey up here today. There were many times she could have just walked away and said it's too much, and she just kept going. So yeah, you know, I just make films. Joe's the one that's really living and doing this journey, so yeah, I know you don't like praise, but yeah.
Any other questions? There's one more, and then I'm going to. There's a microphone coming. I don't need the microphone. Harry, go.
No, the last thing that actually happened with my court case was the allocation hearing where it went to the High Court. it's not on hold as such, but I think at the moment it's not really being pushed through. Partly because there are other cases in the system that it's actually probably in our interest to wait and see how they pan out. So, for example, the River Wye case, class action, it's not the same issue. It is different because it is about agricultural pollution, but there are still a lot of similarities. And I think seeing how that pans out in court will be really interesting and hopefully will help my case, as the Manchester Ship Canal case has already helped my case. How mine goes forward at the moment is not 100% clear because I can't be exposed to that huge financial risk. So it may continue with me, but in that case, we would need to do some kind of fundraising. You can take out insurance policies against excessive costs, but even those insurance policies cost hundreds of thousands of pounds because you're insuring against the potential payout of millions if you lose. So if we can do that, that would be my preferred option, but that's the easy philosophy if the person doesn't really have to do very much about it. So I don't know if that'll happen. It could get merged with the group action. Now, in a sense, I see that as like the worst case scenario, but that is because I'm bloody minded and I want to see this. I really want my day in court that's just me versus South West Water. But if it gets merged with the group action, what I know is that that group action would never have happened if it hadn't been for me doing my action in the first place. That led to the group action. So if I sit here and say, well, that's the worst case scenario, that's pretty damn good. I would be very proud to be part of the group action. So that could happen as well. But who knows? Watch this space. Joe Bateman, 99.
And just to finish off, thank you, audience. Really good questions, thank you. And just in one sentence, everyone, all the panelists, what does a healthier future for our waters look like? Jake, I'll start with you.
So you've brought it back to the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act 2015. Wales is amazing. I would like to see Wales leading the UK in this.
Joe?
I would like to be able to go swimming whenever I wanted without having to worry about whether there's actually shit in the sea because I know damn well that it's never happening.
I'd like to win an Oscar. On a serious note, you can't see it, this QR code behind me. What I have to say about this project is we've had so many people come along the 2-year journey and just get alongside the film that we're making, give their time for free often. We have impact producers, which is a kind of a new thing in documentary, particularly cinema documentary, which is all about how do you measure the impact of a film that's trying to say or do something out there in society and culture. So our impact producers have produced a survey. You can get to it through the QR code, or you can get to it through the URL for the film, which is jointhewater.com, joeinthewater.com. That's really cool, isn't it? Jointhewater.com. So really easy to remember. Please come and do that survey because one of the impact producers teaches film at Bournemouth University, but she's also doing a doctorate in environmental kind of impact. And so she's going to be using the data from people who've seen the film to be able to build something into that and share that sort of more widely. So I know it's a bit of a pain. It takes about 5 minutes, but the more people who can do that survey would really help us.
We'll also just take a picture of it tonight if you're too tired to do it tomorrow as well. We're having a cup of coffee in the morning. So thank you to our panellists. Thank you all for coming. And thank you for caring enough to be part of this conversation on World Earth Day. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.